Good afternoon, Afro friends and family. My name is Alexis Taylor. I'm here with Miss Megan Sales and Miss Aria Brent. We are here with some event highlights and headlines that you can expect in this week's paper. Now, it was a busy weekend for our Afro reporters. Okay, on Friday, we had live coverage of the book talk with Ben Jealous. He was at Red Emma's in Baltimore. He spoke to the crowd about his new text, Never Forget Our People Were Always Free. I thoroughly enjoyed hearing him speak about how the women in his life influenced his path. On Saturday, we covered the annual Book Lovers Breakfast. Shout out to Enoch Pratt Free Library. They had the author of the critically acclaimed novel Devil in a Blue Dress there to give the keynote address for the crowd. And then on Sunday, the AFRO was honored to join the ladies of the Baltimore alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta sorority as they celebrated the organization's 110th year of service. Now, that was a milestone that they reached back in January, on January 13th, 1913. So it was a very, very busy weekend. Make sure that you check out all of the coverage of those events on our Facebook and IG pages. All right. So Aria, I saw that you were covering the Grammys for us last night.
Yes,
I enjoyed your coverage. You are hilarious, first of all. I love the tweet that you had about the Smokey Robinson performance with Stevie Wonder, and the one about Mary J. Blige. So give us a wrap up. What happened at the Grammys last night?
Last night at the Grammys, for starters, history was made. So Beyonce now has the most Grammy wins of all time. Previously, before this, she and Jay-Z, I saw that they were tied up for the amount of nominations. Earlier in the show, she had ended up getting tied with George Solti for the amount of wins, but she surpassed him. She ended up winning dance/electronic album of the year for her album Renaissance. And so now a Black woman has the most Grammy wins ever. In addition to that, Lizzo won Record of the Year, and then Samara Joy, who is a jazz singer, she won Best New Artist. So it was a dub all around for Black women. Kendrick Lamar won Best Rap Album of the Year. Harry Styles won Best Album of the Year, I believe. Steve Lacy won an award, and then he performed as well. From what I could see, it was just all around a good time. However, earlier in the show, Chris Brown had lost R&B Album of the Year to Robert Glasper. If you know who Robert Glasper is, then you know. If you don't, please get hip. He is an amazing artist, furthermore, a phenomenal musician, and I feel like it was justified. But Chris Brown, nobody likes to lose, but he got on his Instagram story and proceeded to ask, who is Robert Glasper? It wasn't a genuine ask. It was him trying to be shady a little bit.
Oh, it was ignorant. It was ignorant.
And it's he kind of made a fool of himself. Personally, me, if I ever was up to win a Grammy, I would look to see who's in the category with me, and anybody that doesn't look familiar, I'm looking them up instead of having the moment that I lose to them be the moment when I become aware as to who they are. So, and once again, another dub for Black women during Black History Month, something that we love to see. Viola Davis reached EGOT status, meaning that she now has an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. Only so many people have those. I want to say Whoopi Goldberg and John Legend are two other people who do, and there's a few more as well.
I love it. I love it. And you're right on looking up who is your competition in the category. I was just surprised. I understand Chris Brown's shock in losing to Robert Glasper, but Robert Glasper is an amazing artist. He's an amazing musician. And so what he does is a little different. He's a musician's musician, so you like you said, if you know who Robert Glasper is. But I didn't like that. I didn't like him throwing shade on Robert Glasper, and the way that he did it. It was the way that he did it. On the other hand, I can bet that people know who Robert Glasper is now, because I'm sure a lot of people saw that IG post and then they went and was like, well, who is he? Mm-hmm. So definitely check out his work. I was a fan a while back, and I can say I haven't checked out his later material, but I'm glad that he was honored last night with an award, and you did amazing coverage, Aria. So thank you so much for that. All right, Megan, what do we have? What can we expect from you this week?
Yeah, so the AFRO is currently trying to ramp up our coverage on food deserts. If you're not aware of what those are, they are neighborhoods or areas that have little or no access to kind of full service supermarkets with fresh fruits and vegetables. Obviously, not having access to that fresh produce can kind of harm your health and put you at risk for some things. So I have a story coming out about some organizations in Maryland and DC that are fighting food deserts. Some of them have kind of like co-op kitchens. Some of them are teaching people how to grow their own produce and things like that. So you can check that out and get involved with some of those organizations or lend your support. And then I'll also have a story coming out that's just discussing kind of some of the health impacts that actually come from food deserts, as well as some of the proposed solutions for food deserts in the city. I'll have some comments from Mayor Scott, as well as some comments from persons at Johns Hopkins to kind of just discuss what we can do to tackle these food deserts. And then also I had an opportunity to talk with Heather Philp, who works at Wells Fargo Bank, to learn how people can get their credit back on track. We're still in the beginning of a new year. It's always good to be tracking your finances, assessing them. And if you're struggling with poor credit right now, Heather just gave some advice of how you can start to rebuild that credit. And she also kind of gave some warnings about the things that will hurt your credit the most. But the biggest takeaway that I'll just share right now is make sure you pay your bills on time. When that minimum payment comes through, Heather just said, do everything in your power to make it, because that is the number one thing that will harm your credit if you don't make that minimum payment on time.
Thank you so much for that, Megan. That is very needed information and coverage. I am looking forward to reading your articles. You always break things down in a way that we can understand. So thank you for that. All right, one last announcement. This week, we have the BEA STEM Conference coming up. Now, it's coming to the Gaylord National Resort and Convention Center. That is in the National Harbor. So the conference will run from February 9th to 11th, and it's going to feature 2 job fairs on top of all of the sessions and forums that they're going to have. They're going to have 2 full job fairs, and those job fairs are going to take place on the first and last day of the convention. So on February 9th and February 11th, they will have those job fairs. If you go to the AFRO News Facebook page, you'll see the flyers that we posted, so you can get an idea of some of the companies and organizations that will be there hiring on those 2 dates. The BEA conference this year is going to include workshops on how historically Black colleges and universities can partner with predominantly white institutions. There's going to be sessions on how HBCUs can acquire federal funding opportunities. So make sure that you register and attend, because there's going to be in-person and online opportunities to see the different events happening. So thank you so much for joining us. This has been another edition of AFRO News at Noonish. If you are not already following us on Facebook and IG, make sure that you go hit that subscribe button. AFRO News is where you can find us, and make sure you follow us on Twitter as well, and check out Aria's coverage of the Grammys last night. Thank you so much.